man. Most of you here know of him in a certain capacity, and usually specialized and aside. My relationship was as close as two human beings can be. This man made me what I am today. We met in 1958, brought together by mutual friends. I was very casual, but I thought he was too, but I guess he wasn't so casual. He then proceeded to invite me to a Uganda function. And I said, well, I'm not so sure. And he stood up and said to me, oh, either you wish to accompany me or you do not wish to accompany me. I said, wow, he knows what he wants. So I did end up accompanying him, and of course, the rest is history. We were married in London a year later, and subsequently returned to Uganda. Martin then went to work at Malago Hospital, and he was practicing the kind of dentistry that he did not like to practice. There was poor equipment, actually poor colonial supervision, but he stood by his position. In 1960, we had our firstborn daughter, Julie Auma, who's here on the second on my left. And so we continued life. But Martin was not happy with the relationships he was maintaining at Malago Hospital. He was then told, all right, we will transfer you to the European hospital, Nakasero. And my husband said, there I will only be treating the expatriates. And they said, well, that's why we are putting you there, because we have heard of your reputation, we have seen your work, and we know where we want you to do your work, which made me very unhappy. During my pregnancy with Julie, the Nakasero Hospital people came to him and said, where is your wife going to deliver? He said, Nakasero Hospital treating patients. And they're asking him, where is your wife going to deliver? And my husband did not answer. 2 days later, he went into the office and he said, I am here treating patients. My wife will deliver in this hospital. They were taken aback, and he pursued, and Julie was delivered at Nakasero Hospital. Maybe, I don't know whether she was the first black to be delivered there, but anyway, she was delivered in Nakasero Hospital. But that is my husband and his determination. I must go back before Julie came and talk about my first visit to Upshur. I was the most, I didn't know what to do, I didn't know what to expect, anticipating with joy and anxiety. When I arrived, my father-in-law, the late Classical Page, and Martin's mother, the late Juliana Aloma, were waiting for me with open arms. That is how I was introduced to Uganda, and some of you here, if you're old enough, you were there. And that is when I realized that this was is a family that I could be a part of. And I have become a part of this family. And never at one moment have I ever felt a stranger. Anything that I wanted, I would get for them. The most important thing was love from them that I brought back. Now, this Nakasero business did not stand well with my husband. And it happened that there was a European dentist in Uganda. And he came to Martin and he said, would you like to buy my practice? And Martin put a knock in that ear. He bought the practice, and the Europeans who were going to this European dentist continued to come to him, and Martin was able to treat Ugandans, which is what he really wanted to do. In 1962, we were at the independence, the raising of the flag. Uganda was independent. We didn't know what was ahead of us, but we were very happy. Because on the 1st of July in that year, I delivered Martin Opio and Philip Ochen. And Philip is here with me on my left, Philip Opio. Philip Ochen, Martin Opio, unfortunately, is not well and he could not be here, he could not travel, and he is in America. Also, in that year, we started building a house for the Martin became chairman of Crusader Properties. And when we decided to build, we didn't have money, very much money. So we went to Crusader Properties and we got a loan. And that loan was given, the collateral for that loan was the house itself. So that if we didn't repay the loan, then they would, of course, confiscate the house. So our first ever property that we built and lived in was at Two Hill Lane, and it still stands. It was taken by Idi Amin. The government was using it as their own house, and we eventually got it back by presidential decree in I think probably about 1980, maybe 1990. The love that Martin had for his family extended to all the siblings, the boys as well as the girls. He had a brother who was also a very unusual and outstanding personality by the name of Dowdy Ocheng. These two were very, very close. Dowdy, as you all know, Ocheng, became involved in politics in Uganda, and at the same time he developed an illness which people could not sort out. And he had to go to England for an operation. Someone high in government said, oh, let him go, we will pay. So Dowdy went to England, had the operation. When it came time for discharge, there was no payment. I'm trying to think of the surgeon's name, called Martin and said, we have to discharge your brother, but we have got his bill here. And my husband said, fear not, the money will be there by tomorrow, and my brother will leave the hospital. And that is what Martin did, showing again his generosity and his love for his siblings. He went and stayed with that particular doctor,
and they became life friends until, as you know, Dowdy died in 1966. Unfortunately, 1972 found us rushing into exile. We boarded a plane, went off to Nairobi, and were hosted by a Ugandan by the name of Christopher Imbojana, who was Martin's friend for many, many years, starting at King's College, Budo. Many friendships are developed in life, but I think those that are developed when one is in secondary school are the closest and the best. So these two have been very close in King's College, Budo. And when we arrived in Nairobi, he hosted us for some months before we got on our own feet. Now, going into Nairobi at that time was very difficult because the Kenya government did not know whether to turn a blind eye on these people running there or send them back to Idi Amin. It was very, very difficult. But they chose, thank the Lord, that they would help the ones who were running into into Nairobi. Martin was very fortunate then after that to be able to assist other family members as well as other Ugandans to get out of Uganda into Kenya. Something I want to mention at that time, our passports had expired, and we applied to the government of Uganda for new passports. When the passports were ready, they contacted my sister-in-law, Naomi, on my far left, and said, "Oh, your brother's passport and his wife are ready." So she went off to the immigration office, and when she got there, she was escorted into the office of Mr. Obotho Fumbi, who was the Minister for Internal Affairs. And he said, "Here are the reports of your brother and his wife." And she reached for them, he pulled them back and said, "These passports will only be given to Dr. Martin Alike or his wife." So, no passports. And I want you to know that when we returned in 1996, and he became Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, one of the places he visited was immigration. And one of the officers opened the desk drawer and said, "Here are your passports." And on it says, "To be given to bearer only." So I am presenting you with these passports. Of course, they were long expired, but that is one of the incidents that we recalled and we rejoiced about it. We lived in a house which we named Kineni House, which I think loosely translated in Luo as "we shall see." But the Kikuyu thought this meant we lived in a big house. And we always had a joke about it because when it said Kineni, and the neighbors around and everybody around started calling him Dr. Kineni. So if you go to Nairobi and someone says, "Oh, do you know Dr. Kineni?" That was actually my husband there. We returned to Uganda in 1996, but prior to that, my husband was returning and began to work for His Excellency the President, Mr. Yoweri Kaguta, we had been working with for some time before that. Now, Martin was a family man. He loved me dearly, and he loved his children dearly. And as life went on and we had grandchildren, he spent time with those grandchildren. My mind is not very lucid, very clear for these past 1 week. And it's amazing how this can happen. But to have lived with someone for 65 years and then he's gone is not easy. But I am fine because he has helped me to be that way, along with the Lord, of course. There's much more I can say, but it is in my heart, everything. And when Martin goes down, a lot of me will go with him. But I must say to you all here, coming to Uganda as a young girl, I met and found a country beyond belief. And I found people beyond belief. You, born in Uganda, you don't know what you have here. You have the most wonderful country in the world. And the most wonderful people. I have never at any time felt as an outsider, as a foreigner. It's just been wonderful. My husband, you will go, but as I said, part of me will go with you. But, my dear, may your soul rest in eternal peace until we meet again. Thank you so much.